Okay, so we are live, and this one's been a long time coming. A little late in the game on this guy, but this is a GI Joe classified series. Edward Torpedo Leialoha, and I hope I'm pronouncing that last name correctly because not only is it the last name of one of my favorite GI Joe characters, but also the last name of a comic book artist that I have a lot of appreciation and respect for his work. That's Steve Leialoha, which he worked on the GI Joe comic book. He was the inker on the famous silent interlude, GI Joe number 21, one of the greatest comic books of all time. He also inked the first half of the two-part Snake Eyes origin story, among other things. Usually, when he was inking, it was when Leialoha himself was doing the layouts, and Steve Leialoha would do the finishes. Oh, hello, Aunt June. I am doing well, actually. Thank you very much. I hope you also are doing well. And here's wishing you a Merry Christmas, in case I don't get a chance to between now and then. But but yeah, so probably the most famous comic that Steve Leialoha worked on, and the certainly the most widely read comic he would have worked on was he was the inker over Howard Chaykin on the adaptation of the original Star Wars movie. So, and if you're somebody my age, like you read that comic. That's one of those comics that like every kid my age read that comic. It was reprinted in several different formats, and it's just one of those where it's like if you were a kid that I think you were assigned a copy of Marvel's Star Wars comic book adaptation if you were a kid at that time. Like not only did they have like the single issues like you'd buy off the newsstand, but they had like collections where like they bag up three issues of it, and you could find those at like Kmart or wherever. They had Treasury edition. It was split up into two different part one and part two of Treasury editions. It was in a little paperback that you could buy. Full color reprint of the comic book in paperback form, not like a big trade paperback like they do today, like a paperback novel, like about that size. So, so yeah, probably more people are familiar with Steve Leialoha's work because of that Star Wars comic than even the greats like Jack Kirby or Joe Kubert. More people would have been exposed to his artwork because of that. But yeah, Larry Hama would often name various members of the GI Joe team after people that he knew in real life, friends and whatnot. And Steve Leialoha was certainly a friend of his, so he got this character named after him. So let's have a look at the artwork on the box. And first, we had this nice photograph of Torpedo standing on top of a submarine. And we see behind him the giant tube worms that fans of the Sunbow animated series will certainly recognize from the first 5-part miniseries, A Real American Hero. And that was from the episode where Torpedo first appeared. And he's pretty heavily featured in one episode where they go on a scuba diving mission, which of course Torpedo would be a member of. Now, Torpedo did cause some problems for them in the comic book because the original action figure was designed to be in scuba gear. So that's fine when you have an actual scuba mission, but when you have them like leading a ground assault in landlocked Washington, D.C., and he's still running around with flippers on, like a Navy SEAL, which is what Torpedo was supposed to be, means sea, air, and land. So he should be qualified to go on any type of mission. But for whatever reason, in GI Joe, they took SEAL to just mean scuba diver, frogman. So if a character was a Navy SEAL, they were probably wearing scuba gear. So I believe that there were 4 Navy SEAL characters in the vintage line that I can recall offhand anyway. Yeah, obviously there was Torpedo. Wetsuit was a Navy SEAL. Uh, we had Shipwreck became a Navy SEAL for his version 2 figure that came out in the 90s. So that was a Shipwreck and scuba gear. And then Tracker was a Navy SEAL, and he actually did not have a wetsuit, but not necessarily realistic military gear either, because he was wearing like a red sports jersey and yellow sweatpants. But he came with an inflatable raft. That was pretty cool. So and then we have a portrait of Torpedo over here, which is nice artwork. But I wish they had have chosen to depict him without the scuba mask. You can't find where you give a thumbs up. Well, it's not in the usual place. Well, that's okay. You just if you can find it, you can give me a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. But you don't have to. It's okay. we'll be all right. So so yeah, I do wish that especially considering how he's wearing the scuba gear on the actual photograph of the figure. It would have been nice to be able to see his face. You do get to see his face if you look at the back of the package. So there's a fairly vanilla picture of the figure, so we can see what the figure looks like, layout of his accessories, and of course he's got some scuba gear, a submachine gun, a spear gun, and some flippers. And then we got some detail of his web gear and detail of this little device that's on his wrist. So so yeah, that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, then we got the QR code over here. He's number 73, and apparently, from what HCC 788 was saying, this QR code just goes straight to the regular Hasbro website, not even a specific GI Joe website, just the regular Hasbro website. So that's kind of disappointing, but makes me glad that I never got around to scanning the QR code, because I would have just been like, it's like, be sure to drink your Ovaltine. It's just a crummy commercial. So I already cut the tape on this yesterday, because I had this. It came in the mail from Amazon yesterday, not in the mail, but Amazon brought it yesterday, and I had this kind of paranoid feeling that maybe it would have been a figure that somebody would have swapped out or something, because I see that happen sometimes with these plasticless packaging. And since this is the older one, he's still got the little paper ties. But yeah, I never got around to getting Torpedo, because I made my custom Torpedo a few years back, so he was kind of low priority to me. I already had that character represented. I was really happy with my custom, but I knew that eventually I was gonna get this guy, because I don't know what I'm gonna wind up doing with my old Torpedo figure though. Maybe I'll make wetsuit. I don't know. Good question. So let's go ahead and open him up, and I'm not even going to bother to cut these. I'm just going to untwist them, because with the paper ties, it's pretty easy to untwist. And there we got Torpedo out of the package. And he's got a really nice head sculpt. Let's see if we can get that to focus a little bit. There's like a real intensity to it. He's not like a particularly handsome man, but he's got like a tough look to him, and an intense expression. I like that. And the build does seem a little slight, I think. Let's see, I've got the Crimson Twins over here, so we can compare. And the Crimson Twins, I kind of figure, are about average of what you'd want to build to be of a GI Joe figure. And Torpedo is not quite that bulky. He's like I said, a little more slight, but that's okay. The original Torpedo figure was not particularly muscular, as most GI Joe figures at that time were not. And a lot of people feel like that figure was a little too soft looking as far as his musculature. But this one's definitely cut, as far as there's like a little spot of something on his leg, like a little sticky spot, like maybe something spilled on it at the factory. Maybe I can clean that off and try a little bit of water. Water would be the first go-to for that. And if that doesn't work, try like some alcohol or something. I'll probably try to clean that off. You got some of it off, but try some rubbing alcohol later. So while we got him out of the package, let's go ahead and go over his articulation. So his head looks down about that far, looks up about that far. Of course, it turns all the way around. You can tilt his head kind of quizzically to the side, so that works out well. Arms rotate all the way around. They're on a butterfly joint, so they move back and forth. About that far forward, about that far back. Does have a bicep swivel, so the bicep swivels all the way around. We got the double jointed elbows. Good range of motion on the elbows. He's got wrists that rotate all the way around, and it's got a horizontal articulate, or sorry, is that the? I'll say vertical articulation at the wrist there, and it looks like vertical articulation on both of those wrists. So he's got the ab crunch, which on mine seems a little stuck, but I managed to get it loose. He can bend down about that far at the abs, bend back about that far at the abs. He's got like a nice waist articulation, reminiscent of the original O-ring articulation, but it's not exactly the same because it's not an O-ring. Leg goes up about that far, and I got the double jointed knees, and that's about the range of motion on the knees. Good range of motion there. Does he have a boot cut? He does have a boot cut, even though he's got short little boots. They're like little scuba booties. So usually, like I would imagine, like with a wetsuit, the way I usually think of a wetsuit is like usually they're not wearing any kind of shoes. They're barefoot and they have the flippers on them. But this has got kind of like little booties that come up to the ankle. But yeah, at least that way you don't have to have them running around barefoot when you don't have the flippers on. So it almost makes me think that maybe this is a wetsuit that's designed that he can still be wearing it on land missions. I do wish, like in hindsight, that they'd given us like an extra head where he was like fully unmasked, so you could see him like obviously he doesn't have the scuba mask on right now, but without the hood. So maybe have like an extra hood piece where he's got the hood pulled back and everything. That would be pretty cool. But it's still cool as it is. That's just me thinking, like, if I was going to add something else to this guy, that would be something else I would add. So he's got like a couple little red pouches there. Maybe they're like demolition charges or anything. And then there's a black pouch on the other side. They all look like the same type of pouch, but these two are red and this one is black. And he's got more pouches on his belt that are similar. That's where I probably would have put like some weights, like they often have. And then he's got like a little sheath over here for his knife. And he's got 3 more pouches over here on this side leg piece, leg belt, whatever you want to call that. So he looks pretty cool as is, but obviously it's a guy in a wetsuit, so we're gonna have some more we're gonna have more accessories to add to this guy because he's not just gonna be running around in a wetsuit with nothing else, is he? No, of course not. So there's the Foot Locker, number 73, Torpedo, and there's our little G.I. Joe emblem. And a little paper envelope, which I will go ahead and tear open. And let's see what all we got in here. So here is a flipper, and we can see it's got some red detailing to it. And there is its mate. So are these the same flipper? Because a lot of times the older figures, they'd have the same flipper, just 2 with the same exact flipper. But not in this case. In this case, they actually did bother to mold 2 unique flippers, one for the left foot, one for the right foot. So we'll set those aside. I guess at the larger scale, it would probably be more difficult to get away with that. And here is his submachine gun. which of course my custom torpedo that I made. You can see the video here on YouTube. Go check out my channel. You just search Alan Belt torpedo; it should probably come right up. I would imagine. Uh, I used a set from Gridiron Studios, and it just so happened to come with a submachine gun just like this. So, ain't that a coinky dink? You know they're paying attention to the stuff the third party people are making. So, see that and go, that's not a bad idea. Now, this does seem like the kind of submachine gun that a frogman might take with him on his mission. So it's possible they could have just come up with this idea on their own. But I'm sure they probably saw the Gridiron set and thought that was a good idea and snagged it. That happens a lot with customs too, where you'll see somebody do like a really cool custom of a GI Joe character, and then Hasbro will make their version. And oh, look, he's got some of these features that this customizer added to it. So, and a lot of the times, customizers like will take ideas from other customizers. So you'll have something where, like, maybe there's a certain type of pouch that somebody put on an airborne figure or something, and then every time somebody else will see like making their own airborne and be like, oh well, I like how he put that pouch in that specific place on airborne, so I'm going to add that pouch in the same place. And then pretty soon everybody's putting that pouch on their airborne figure. So when Hasbro finally gets around to doing an airborne, of course they're going to put the pouch on there too. That sort of thing. But there's what the gun looks like with the ammo clip in there. Pretty cool little gun. There we go. Reminds me a little bit of Dial Tone's gun. Maybe when they do Dial Tone, they can do that gun, but in silver. That would be pretty cool. And then he's got a little knife, the nasty looking little hook on it. Can you imagine being stabbed by that thing? Ouch! It's probably like made that way to cut wires or something. I don't know. But let's go ahead and put knife in the sheath. Well, let's go ahead and put the knife in his hand. Let's see what it looks like with the knife in his hand. And nice tight grip on that knife. There he is with the knife. Pretty cool. All right, so let's go ahead. We will put that back into his sheath on his leg. And it does seem like this strap is a little loose. It seems to kind of move a little too freely, I think. Maybe you could pull it further down on the leg and that would hold it more in place. But it seems like even the sort of thing where, like, since it's just one strap on there, it might get kind of knocked loose fairly easily. So let's go ahead and we'll see what he looks like with the submachine gun. So there's that. That fits nicely into his hand. It looks pretty badass with it. Let's go ahead and see if we can get that into a two-handed grip. Sometimes it's a matter of like pulling his hands apart and fitting the thing in there. And I wouldn't want to leave it like that permanently because that would stretch out his hands. But, to pose him that way to take some photographs or just to play around with it for a little bit, I don't think it would hurt. So, all right, so we're going to take that back out of his hand and set it aside for now. We're going to get him geared up with his scuba gear. And hopefully there's a place to store that when he's not using it. It looks like there's some kind of little clamp. I think that's where the hose is going to. No, the hose is going to plug in. So maybe we can put one of his weapons in that when he's holding the other one. So there, the scuba gear fits nicely onto his backpack, or fits nicely onto his back. I'm not too much of a scuba expert, but it looks like there's a little bit of a tank at the top. That's probably where the oxygen goes. It doesn't look like anything like the tank that the scuba gear that the original Torpedo came with. So maybe somebody can 3D print something that's like a somebody like Don Art Collectibles or somebody can make a backpack that looks a little more like the original Torpedo backpack. That would be pretty cool. So the hoses here plug right into the backpack, and there he is with the scuba mask up over. You can still have him with the scuba mask pulled up over the top of his head, so you could have him like you can still have his face exposed if you want to, and of course it fits all the way over the head like that. It fits on there, I think, kind of just snugly enough, like in either position. Like it's not on there like super tight, but it's on there just tight enough to grip it. So I wouldn't worry about it falling off or anything like that. But it's not on there like super rigid. You know what I mean? So let's see if I'm right and the gun can fit in here, and it can, but again, not too tight. But you can have him store the gun there if he's using the spear gun. So, but I don't want to take a chance on knocking it out and dropping it on the floor. So from now, I'm going to take it back out. I'll put it back on later. But here we go with the flippers, and the flippers do have like a little strap at the back to help hold them on. So let's go ahead, and that's a nice snug fit. And they do have, as you can see, little holes where the peg hole is in the foot, so you can still use them with a figure stand. And they seem to go on quite easily, so that's good. And they're very long flippers. And like I said, they have that red detailing to them, so that gives them a little more sort of depth, sort of texture. And since we've got the fins on them, let's go ahead and see if we can get him into a good swimming position. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. And let's go ahead and, since he's on his underwater mission now, let's go ahead and give him the spear gun. Here's a good look at the spear gun. You can see that it does have a little strap, so that I guess in case he drops it, it doesn't sink all the way to the bottom of the ocean. He can catch it again real quick because it's still tied to his wrist. So that's a nice little realistic touch. And spear gun went into his hand really easily. And there he is with the spear gun, and that looks super cool. Makes me think of Thunderball. So the original G.I. Joe Frogman in the 1960s definitely was inspired by Thunderball, which was like a huge movie at that time. Like pretty much every G.I. Joe toy that came out that year was kind of inspired by Thunderball, because that was such a huge movie. James Bond was like really big at the time in general, and Thunderball was like, I believe, adjusted for inflation, is still the #1 James Bond movie. I think more people went to see Thunderball than any other James Bond movie. So adjusted for inflation. So I think there's other James Bond movies that have come out since that have made more money, but I think Thunderball is still the one that sold the most tickets. So yeah, that looks pretty awesome. It kind of makes me wish, he'd come with a figure stand where you could just put him on there in like this kind of position. And in fact, since I have a McFarlane figure stand right here, why don't I go ahead and see if I can adjust that so that he can flip that around like that. So yeah, this came with a Superman figure. So if you have like one of these McFarlane figure stands with the flight stand, you could put him on your shelf like that and have him look like he's swimming, and that's pretty neat. So Torpedo, very cool figure. I'm disappointed in myself that I slept on this for as long as I did. But like I said, I just made my own custom of him like a few years back, and I was really happy with that one, and I still think I did a pretty bang up job on that one. You should go and watch that video if you haven't seen it once you're done with this one. But I don't know, I might wind up taking that one apart and doing something else with it on down the line. I might try to see if I can get a second one of these and turn it into a Superman figure, which, you might be like, why would you make a Superman figure out of Torpedo? You already said he was like really slight. Well, the original Torpedo figure that came out in the 1980s, Fun School in India, who had the G.I. Joe license, they actually made that into a Superman figure that was called Superhero. And I, even though they had the GI Joe license, I don't know if they had the Superman license. So that's probably why that character was called Superhero. See, the thing did fall out. So even though like I'm pretty sure that's made to store this gun, it doesn't stay in there like quite as well as you might like. Can you get it to go back in there now? But yeah, they made that figure is kind of infamous these days, and it's basically like a repaint of Torpedo with the head of the original Hawk figure, but with black hair, and they give him a little raggedy cloth cape. It's a very rare, very sought after figure these days, and I thought it might be fun to, as a joke, like make a modern classified superhero figure out of that. But maybe later if I see him on sale or something, I might go ahead and do that. So yeah, I've never seen this guy in the store, and there's a lot of figures from that particular wave that I never saw in the store. Like I know I saw Falcon in the store. I think I saw Outback like once. I've seen the I think it was a red bat. It was either the red bat or the red viper. I think it was the red bat. I think I've seen him like once in the store. Never saw CoverGirl in the store, and she's really expensive on Amazon right now. And but this guy I've never seen in the store, but he was still pretty affordable to pick up on Amazon. And yeah, I like Torpedo too. He turned out pretty neat. So yeah, I picked him up on Amazon because I saw him on Amazon actually for pretty cheap. I think it was like $17 or something that I saw him, which is cheap for a classified figure. So I figured I better go ahead and snag him while I can, since I hadn't had a chance to. But yeah, getting him in hand, like I knew he was going to be an impressive figure when I saw the pics, but getting him in hand is just like, yeah, I should have got him a long time ago. So, and then they've got a new GI Joe Frogman, the 60th anniversary action sailor they've got coming out, and he looks like he's going to share a lot of parts with this guy, which makes sense because like you already have a perfect Frogman figure here. Just why mess with something while it's working? So yeah, he definitely gets a recommend from me if you're somebody like me that's been sleeping on this figure and hasn't picked him up yet. Go ahead and do yourself a favor and pick them up. So that's pretty much it for Torpedo. If you enjoyed this video, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this figure. Is he one that you picked up immediately, or did you just kind of lollygag on it like I did? So and once you did get him, were you happy to have him like I am? So yeah, that's pretty much it for this episode. We will talk to you next time. Bye.